Hey Victoria, how's it going? Hope you had a great week so far. So, we're moving on and moving upward. Last week we talked about memorizing the musical alphabet and knowing where to find all the notes on the guitar. And this week we're going to talk about kind of finding some key points. Okay, so finding, like for guitar, there's a few common keys that we have that make the most sense to memorize. So for example, the first being all your open strings. Okay, so for example, we have E. First step would be find out where all the E's are by locating them on each string. So, because every single string has all 12 notes that exist, right? So there is an E on every single string and it's your job to find it and memorize exactly where it is, okay? So, thankfully the E's, pretty much every E on the guitar is on a dot somewhere, okay? So for example, we have open E, right? The next E on that string would be the 12th fret, because that's an octave up, okay? Yeah, I'm in tune. Cool. Yeah, so up an octave right there on the 12th fret. That's the first one. All right, if you go to the A string, we're going to find our E on the 7th fret, which is the 3rd dot. You know, let me get a little closer. In fact, make this camera a little shorter so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So, open E, 12th fret. That's the next available E. Okay, A string. The closest E we have is on the 7th fret. Okay? Like that. Okay, on the D string, well, let's think about that. D isn't too far from E, is it? So D, D sharp, E. So far we have, right? Okay, moving on. On the G string, the closest to E is going to be on the 9th fret. Right there. So, if you look, you'll see a pattern emerge out of this. So if you look, and I believe this is correct, but if you look, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. So if you're on an E already, if you go 5 frets back on the string below, that'll take you to the next E. Okay? Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really, we're starting on this one. And going back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the next E right there. Okay, now we're on the G string, 9th fret, right? 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because of the way the guitar is tuned, the G to the B is tuned a little different than all the other strings. We may have talked about that last week, just a quick reminder of it. The guitar is tuned mostly in what we call fourths. So what a fourth is, it's where you start on a note and you go up 4, and that is a fourth. They have a very distinct sound, and we can talk about that later on. But, so for example, this is the E string, right? So starting on E, to start on E is 1, because we're starting not from 0. E, F, G, A, okay? Starting on A, going to D, A, B, C, D. Easy enough, right? Starting on D, going to G, D, E, F, G, right? And then G to B is what we call a third. It's only 3 away and not 4. Okay? And the reason they tune the guitar this way, I'll show you in a second. I don't actually want to say it yet. So G, A, B, right? But then if you look, B to E is a fourth. B, C, D, E. They tune the guitar this way so that you can play a high octave and a lower octave on the exact same fret. It makes chords a lot easier to play. If the guitar was tuned differently, our chords might look something more like this, and that's a lot harder to reach for, and it would mean you have to relearn all the shapes on the guitar, right? So we're sticking with that. All right, so all you have to do in terms of thinking of how to get from this E right here to the next E is subtract 1. So in other words, instead of going to fourths, we're going to go to thirds. So instead of going back 5 frets, we're going to go back 4 frets instead. Simple as that. Excuse that noise, my amp is farting out on me for some reason. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that's our next E. But now, since these two strings are tuned to fourths, we're going back to the same thing before. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Open E, that's our next E. Let me see if I can fix my amp real quick. Let's do that farty thing that I don't like. There we go. I think we're good now. So that's just one note too. Like you can imagine like the guitar is tuned in E standard, is what we call that. But obviously you've played a lot of G chords, right? And C chords and D chords. So we have what are called cowboy chords in the guitar. It's essentially chords that are played just right in this lower region within the first 4 frets of the guitar. That's the first position of the guitar. Okay? So it's important to memorize all of those as well, because if you can play in G and you can use a capo, I mean, you can play pretty much any song you want to, you know? So looking at it like this, let's find the same thing. There's that fart noise again. So we're on G right here, right? Obviously, we have an open G string as well. And the first string and the lowest string are tuned to the same note, so same fret on both those guys also creates G. So I would challenge you to go through every single string like we just did with the E and find all the G's. There's our G right there. We're back 5 frets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our G right there. And if you're not sure if it is the G or not, you can check it with the open G string. So if you play a note, and you're like, that's G right there, we'll play the open G string. If it's not the same note, then it's not G. It should sound like that right there, or any of these options is what they're supposed to sound like. So, as a musician, it's your job to know these things so that you can comfortably move around the guitar in all your different ways and shapes and not get lost, right? All right, so that's something that you can do on your own time. I would challenge you just to learn like 3 at a time is a good way to go about it. So learn where all the E's are. Oops. Even I do that sometimes. Okay, learn where all the G's are. Where else? All that stuff. And maybe do one more. Maybe find where all the C's are, because C is a really common key as well. Right? It may seem a little weird at first, but this is just something you have to memorize over and over and over in order to get it down. So, one thing I want to talk to you about also is simplifying the major scale. So we've talked about the major scale before, but I really wanted to hammer it in as to what it is. So we talked about it. Let's talk about the theory of what makes a major scale work, okay? So whole steps, half steps, right? You know that. A pattern of whole steps and half steps is the definition of what a major scale is. So I want you to try real quick, okay, if you haven't already, is open E string, for example, and just walk up the major scale pattern and just see how it looks on one string. We're not doing anything crazy. We're not going into other strings, right? Real simple, just to see how it lays out on the guitar, okay? And the more you do this, the more you'll memorize the way the major scale sounds, and it'll be easier to find those notes on the guitar in other places, okay? So, just follow me if you want to. E, up a whole step, up a whole step, up a half step, up a whole step, up another whole step, and then finally a half step. So the pattern is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Okay? So let's do that one more time. And I would do this for every single string. Just memorize the way these sound, okay? Because as soon as you know how it sounds, you can find it almost anywhere you want to. In any shape you want to. It gets to the point where it doesn't even matter what shape it is, you're playing a major scale. So, quick review real quick. So, I'd say work on those. This is going to help you memorize the guitar a little better.
And I think it'll be a really good step for you to take in memorizing the guitar and trying to maybe feel a little more comfortable with the instrument. So, all right, if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, I will see you next week. Bye.